Serious tattoo artists, what was your worst mistake and how did the client react? Infant. I had a client who decided he wanted lettering on his forearms, sayings in Greek and Hebrew. He doesn't speak either language, but he had one of his friends double check the spelling before he sent the references to me. Came in. We did the tattoos. Pretty simple appointment. Fast forward to a couple weeks later, I get a message from my client about the tattoo that was done in Hebrew. He owns a small construction/restoration company and has a few Israeli guys who work for him. Apparently, they were giving him a lot of shit for his Hebrew tattoo. He originally thought they were just messing with him because it was spelled wrong. The font he had chosen off a quick Google search essentially changed a couple of the letters, kinda like the difference between an F and a T, making it a completely different word. We ended up being able to fix it pretty easily and had a good laugh about it. But definitely beware when you're getting tattoos in a language you and your artist don't speak. Best advice I could give anyone, as someone who has lived abroad and seen too many screw ups in multiple languages, study the language/script first. Knowing even a bit about how letters are formed in different writing types can help so much. Grammar is important as well. I lived in Japan and saw so many weird things written in English because people didn't know the proper word order. Kanji tattoos are worse. Not only not knowing what kanji can be put together, but how the writing strokes go. If the tattoo artist has no idea, it's going to look backwards. There is a directionality to how it is written. And if you don't know how, it's going to look like an illiterate artist drew a picture of what he thinks writing looks like. End rant. So I didn't mess up, but I had a client scare me. I was tattooing his sister's name on him. She passed away. Gabriela with one L in it. Past the point of no return, he asks me there's 2 L's. Right? I think I had a heart attack. And he started laughing. He thought it was hilarious. I died a little and pretended to laugh. My artist didn't mess up, but scared the shit out of me. My first tattoo from him was a lighthouse with a symmetrical pattern on the bottom. It's a red American traditional flower with wings of other green, orange, yellow, and red petals curving away symmetrically. You can see it in my post history. He finished one side, then was coloring the other side that I couldn't see, and I heard him whisper Roduck. Turns out instead of working with the yellow first for a fade into orange, he accidentally did the orange first and couldn't really work in the yellow. Not a huge deal, and not noticeable at all, but he certainly made my heart skip. Not noticeable at all. Kick-ass tat BTW. My only spelling mistake ever was in Italian. Girl wants a phrase in Italian. She writes it down no less than 5x on a paper. I tell her to make sure it is correct. I don't speak Italian. She insists it is correct. I draw up some nice script. Tattoo it with no issues. Bandage. Pay, and she leaves. She comes back in hysterical and tells me I spelled it wrong. I hadn't thrown out the paper. I spelled it exactly how she spelled it. I asked what she wanted to do, and she decided ain't no one I know speaks Italian. That was about 15 years ago. I often wonder if she ended up getting it covered up. Mayo, it's good that she was able to accept the mistake as her own. A few years ago I was tattooing a client who had apparently lost a bet. His buddies were allowed to tattoo something behind his shoulder, as long as it wasn't racist or offensive. Turns out the guy drew up a design of a leprechaun throwing up on a book. Sure, why not? Everyone was sober, and they were paying pounds up front. Easy work. The drawing was really simple and the shading was easier than I thought it'd. Turns out everyone liked it, except the guy with the tattoo of a leprechaun throwing up on a book. He picked at the scab, trying to get rid of it. Completely took it from bad to worse. Comes in about 10 days later, demanding a refund of money he didn't pay, or the studio. Not me. Cover it up. Nope. Management said you signed for it and you're right. Mind and damaged it yourself. Personally, I was yelled at and told never to tattoo anyone like that. It only works in television series or film. Did I make a mistake? Yes and no. The lesson here is don't get involved in others' drama when permanent body marking are involved. Honestly sounds like an expected reaction from the type of person who would actually take a bet that would force him to get a tattoo. When I was but a wee baby piercer, I worked at the biggest shop in my city, which had 14 artists and 2 piercers. It was the peak of the tramp stamp trend. I'm still so sad that was the nickname. Ass Sandler's was so much better, so when a super tiny 18-year-old black woman came in and wanted her name on her lower back with a flower, it was just normal. An older white male tattoo artist took her to pick a font. It took a minute, even though back then everyone went with Edwardian, but they came out. I had her do paperwork, and he got the drawing finished. She okayed the design. She okayed the stencil. She sat for the tattoo. Loved it. Tipped him and left. 2 hours later she called back sobbing saying we ruined her life. The counter girl told her to come in, and we would fix whatever was wrong. Tattoo comes back with her 2 gigantic, angry AF friends who are ready to freak out. We finally see the tattoo. Her name was Whitney. The N got left out in the font process. So huge across her lower back it said Witty. It was covered for free, and with many apologies, with 3 giant purple roses. The tattoo artist was so ducked up over that he didn't come in for a week. It was an honest mistake, but it was the worst ducking spelling error I've seen. I was working at a place when a guy came in for a full back piece of 3 different cars. It took like 4 visits to finish, and each visit he'd look at it and say it looks awesome, and then he would take off. On the last visit, they call me in to look at it to show me how awesome it turned out. Well, all the steering wheels were on the wrong side, and the reason no one caught it was because a dude was looking in a mirror to check his progress, so they looked correct. I'm pretty sure the guy was super chill about it when they offered a bunch of free work and they fixed it in another session. Tattoo artist here. Best case I ever saw. A guy came into our shop asking about a cover up. The tattoo wasn't done at our place. He had what we call a belly rocker. One of those lettering tattoos that arcs over the belly. Think Tommy Lee's Mayhem tattoo. Usually gothic font. Gangster type piece. He had beautifully executed, bold, black, old English letters across his belly that were supposed to read, "Scarred for life." Whoever did the tattoo, as well as the tattooed guy, had forgotten one of the letters, an R. This guy came in with "Scared for life" on his belly. We showed him some cover-up options, including full torso, Japanese-style bodysuit stuff. Someone may have joked about doing the old proofreading trick of just putting a little red arrow and adding the missing letter. I don't know who did the thing, but never saw him again after giving cost estimates for the giant cover-up. 15 or so years ago, we still joke about this one. I was a receptionist at a tattoo shop. One of the artists misspelled neighborhood on this guy's neck. He spelled it neighborhood, leaving out the first H. Neighborhood was the guy's nickname. It was a pretty large, elaborate tattoo, so there was no fixing it. I don't think I have ever cringed so hard in my life. The guy was surprisingly really cool about it. He did see the drawing and approved it before it was tattooed on. He ended up making the artist tattoo a H on his palm, so if anyone gave him shit about the misspelling he could smack that person with the missing H. That dude's got a sense of humor. I like that. I tattooed Philippines 413 instead of Philippians 413 on a girl one time. Fortunately I was able to fix it though. My ex did a large scarification on the client's abdomen. The client had brought in a piece of paper with the stylized word perseverance. I was invited in midway to see the progress and had to tap my ex on the shoulder for a spelling lesson. The release form for my tattoo artist had a giant section for anyone getting a tattoo with words or letters. The whole section stated that any misspellings were not their fault and to put the letters in order exactly how you wanted them tattooed. I was doing a big old tattoo of Cringer, aka Battlecut, on a really cool client's leg. I got so into doing this big, awesome tiger head that I forgot that it wasn't a goddamn tiger and colored the stripes black. I realized about a third of the way through filling them in and let the guy know. He was disappointed, but mostly okay with it. I felt like I was going to puke. I finished the thing feeling so ducking sick and then refused payment. Man, going from that feeling of elation to immediate crushing disappointment was hard to shake and kind of dazed me. It was extra crushing because it was a fun tattoo during a time when I wasn't that busy and was doing mostly absolute dreck. The payment was just the icing on the top, so letting that go was hard too. Just thinking about it now is making me feel sick. I've never really made any big mistakes that garnered a reaction. But one of my clients has a tattoo from another artist in a local studio that says Graddad instead of Grandad. The studio fired the artist and wouldn't take any responsibility for what had happened. The studio fired the artist and wouldn't take any responsibility for what had happened. How did they reconcile those two positions? We don't sell tattoos. We rent benches and equipment to independent artists, etc. Did my first one on an old schoolmate who was aware of my artistic abilities, despite having never applied ink before, and he offered me his back. I had 3 pros watching as I drew a geisha free-handed on his back while he was hunched over. When the design was laid out, he checked it in the mirror and was good with it, so I began lining it. The thing is, the other artist said it looked great, but unfortunately I was doing something else when he checked it, so I didn't notice just how screwed up it really was. Anyway, I lined it and we took a break. As he stood up while I was watching, my heart dropped as I witnessed the geisha's face droop into a palsied state on one side. He was sitting leaned forward with his elbows on his knees while drawing it, and so distorted the canvas. Now, this sounds shitty, but I never really liked this guy too much. He originally wanted a back full of strippers, so I didn't feel bad that when he went to look in the mirror, he lifted his shoulder to look at the tattoo, which normalized the proportions, and he said it looked awesome. Well, good then. Big lesson learned though. I still have the occasional nightmare over it. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed watching this video. Leave your thoughts in the comments below.